Hey guys, before we get started, we want to shout out all of our awesome partners, including Hicks Chicks, Trinity Medical, Gregg Vet, Magnolia Bluff Casino, and all of the awesome partners that you see on the screen right now. Make sure to do business with them, and we hope you enjoy the show. Hey guys, Ronnie Calhoun here with Miss Lou Champion Spotlight. Got my buddy Wes Pack in the studio. How are you?
I'm doing good, Ronnie. How are you?
Doing well, man. We got a pretty fascinating story to get into today.
Yes, we do.
That a lot of people around Natchez have been following it. Natchez and beyond, I guess.
Yep.
We've no pressure now. Your beautiful bride Tammy has been on the set and she knocked it out of the park. So no pressure or anything like that.
Well, you will see.
No, we're glad to have you in. We're glad to have her, and glad to have you in too.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself for the folks that don't know you yet?
Well, first, Ronnie, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come in here and be on your program.
Yeah,
and have this chance to just share this amazing story. Very unique.
Yeah,
very interesting. But as you know, myself, I'm Wes Pack. My wife, as Ronnie mentioned, is Tammy Pack, and we bought Holly Hedges back in April 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And we truly feel blessed. One, because we've had the means to be able to renovate the property, restore it, I should say, completely restore it, and also do some things that have made it so comfortable. But on top of that, we've just feel so blessed, not only because of the home, we've fallen more and more in love with it, but also the community, just Natchez in general. It has been an absolute blessing meeting folks like yourself, Mayor Dan, Thibodeau's our neighbors, and everybody. I could go down the road and someone's going to feel left out because I don't have a good memory, but it's just been a blessing to be here.
Yeah, Natchez is a unique place, isn't it?
It truly is. It truly is.
And you guys come from Fredericksburg.
Correct.
Which is similar in some ways, I would guess.
Yeah, that's an old German town that was established back in 1848 when the German settlers came over. They had actually purchased the property or the land that time and sailed over and then established there.
Yeah. Okay. Is Fredericksburg? It's a lot bigger than Natchez, or is it?
We're about 11 to 12,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So pretty similar size, I guess.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. So there's something interesting that you've done over the last year or so that ties into the history of Holly Hedges here.
You know, that's the whole reason why I wanted to come in here. And I've got this thing to help us outline. So if you don't mind, I'm going to be going through this.
It's all good.
Because it's a heavy ordeal. Yes, something very interesting. And if you follow Tammy or I, well, mainly Tammy on Facebook, you'll know that I have been in Italy for about a year. It was from September of 2022 all the way until September of 2023. And while I was over there, I was studying art, but I also created a 6.5-foot bronze statue, a matador bullfighter. And I can say that it is now finally has arrived here in Natchez. It's in its crate. Well, I've opened the crate and shared a few sneak peeks with it. So now it's here.
Man, I'm looking at it right here.
Yeah, in fact, that one picture there, you can see, the bronzing and everything, so forth. And when the crate showed up, we cracked it open. I jumped inside of it.
Yeah, I'm looking
and literally just, you have arrived, my son. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you were so happy for it to be here.
Oh, man.
So what made you want to do a 6.5-foot statue of a bullfighter?
Well, aside from
got to be a story.
Oh, yeah. But aside from being crazy, I got to thank my wife for this. Because that's a very good question, but I have to thank her and my daughter Savannah, my stepdaughter Savannah, because at one time I wanted to go over to Italy just for 1 month and study traditional oil painting. But while I was there, I made connections with a sculpting studio, and at the same time, I got invited because they liked what I was doing as far as my painting within that 1 month. That they invited me to join the master's program, Masters of Visual Arts. And that was a 10-month program. So I immediately had to call Tammy and ask her how much she loved me, which of course she does. But yeah, and just explain this to her.
Some wives might love you more if you stay gone for 10 months. So I don't think
Well,
that's y'all's case, but in
it's
some
amazing.
cases.
It's funny you say it, because it's amazing how much you can accomplish sometimes when you're away from your spouse compared to sometimes when you're with them. Well, Tammy cracks a good whip. But
Yeah.
I created this statue while I was over there, and she
Yeah.
wrote a book while I was gone.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. And bought a house and sold it, right? All that stuff.
Yeah.
Too.
So anyway, the question is, why the statue? Well, the original deed to Holly Hedges back in 1796, when it was given to Don Juan Scott. Basically, his name was John Scott, and he was from Scotland. But the Spanish ruled the area, and so on record, it's identified as Don Juan Scott.
Okay.
And that original deed back in 1796, in there is a stipulation, restriction, that says there shall be no bullfighting in the side yard. Now,
it had to be a good story as to how that became.
I thought, what a better thing to do than to put a bullfighter out there to tell the story.
Yeah.
And this bullfighter is going to be looking straight at Washington as people go by, the tours and everything go by. And he's going to be sitting there just waiting for someday for that bull to show up. And it's never going to show. So
we hope anyway.
Apparently bullfighting was like soccer or barbecues back then.
Yeah.
Because you can't have, it was so rampant or something. But and by the way, the statue, we are going to be unveiling the statue on March 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
March 2nd.
March 2nd at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
Okay.
In the parterre garden, the garden that's right there at Holly Hedges. You can see it from the road. At 1 o'clock, we're going to be unveiling it. And it's going to be quite a shindig. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. We got friends coming in from out of town, and we're going to have it live on Facebook.
Yeah.
And whatever else we can do. But we'll
be there.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
We chose that day because it's going to be right in the middle of that garden. Because there used to be a statue there before. Now we get to put this one.
Yeah.
But that day is also the same day that the Save the Hall Ball is held that night at the wonderful and glorious Stanton Hall.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And because of that as well, I'm going to do something very special. I'm actually going to provide an auction item for that night. And we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's...
Yeah. So
now,
so what about... So what is the auction thing that you're...
Well, okay. Go ahead and get into that.
We talked about it a little bit off camera.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
And basically, the auction, it's going to be a silent auction. There's going to be an open auction, and it's to raise funds in support of Stanton Hall and the pilgrimage. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling here.
Yeah.
The garden club, the Pilgrimage Garden Club. And those funds are going to go towards helping that organization as well as maintaining those homes, most of all.
Not cheap.
Stanton Hall. No, it's not. It's not. They've got a roof to do and all this.
Yeah.
But my auction item to help raise funds is going to be a 24 to 30 inch tall bronze statue. But it's up to you to decide what it's going to be. So you're basically getting a commissioned custom bronze statue. And what that means is that I will literally sit down with you, find out what it is that you want to. Ronnie, it could be you. It could be your head, your bust, your wife. It could be one of your kids. It could be your one of your favorite pets.
Yeah.
So that's the opportunity that someone has to create this custom bronze statue, and it will last up to 1,000 years or more.
1,000 years, man. So I just want to recap real quick with the unveiling. 1 o'clock, March 2nd at Holly Hedges.
Correct.
And it's going to be the unveiling of the Bronze Matador statue.
Yeah, March 2nd, 1 o'clock at Holly Hedges, unveiling of the Bronze Matador.
Yeah, the Bronze Matador, the Natchez Matador.
Natchez Matador, which is just going to be a unique history, something to add and tell the story of the history. So when the tour buses and the little carriage goes by and all that, and
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
they
Yeah.
can point it out and finally get to tell the full story and see it all. And by the way, the garden that it's going into, I don't know if anybody's aware of this, the parterre garden with the hedges. If you look at it from above, it is in the shape of the Union Jack flag, which is very unique.
Mm-hmm.
It's been there for, I want to say, close to 70 years. Earl Hart Miller,
Yeah.
he is the designer that, to me, was the last person that really upgraded holly hedges.
Okay.
And did a lot
And that was
of work on it. Before that, I would say it
was
was Judge Turner.
That was 100 years ago, or
No,
70
that was
years
about
ago.
70,
70 years ago.
50 to 70 years ago.
Okay.
But Judge Turner did the massive approach where it added the two gables. And what's unique about that, it's not only in the original Audubon painting of Natchez, but it's also in the Thule painting. And the Audubon has it just with that one gabled roof going across.
Yeah.
And in the Thule painting, it has the two gables coming off of it. And that's shortly after. That's when Judge Turner had done his,
Okay.
added his touch to the place. Really neat story to see that in those paintings.
So, do their have you met any of their families or anything like that?
Haven't yet, but we've done a lot of research, and mainly Tammy. The McMurrans live there, and the children, and they're the ones that are responsible for building Melrose. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of
Wow.
connections, and I think there's a lot of connections with every one of these grand homes in town. But I think it's very unique to be able to tell that story, and that's some of the things that we'll share as well. Anyway.
Yeah. Natchez. I mean, Natchez is just such a unique place, man. When you compare it to all these other towns and everything, it's different.
It is.
I tell people all the time, I'm not saying we're the best or the worst. Just saying we're unique.
You know, I got to tell you, the reason why I got into sculpting.
Yeah.
And I have to say this, I feel very, very blessed. And that is the fact that I was born with this gift, this talent. But on top of that, I had a mother who was a tremendous creative person. She was an illustrator, and she did wedding designs and stuff like that, and dragged me around to kind of do the duties and stuff. And so I've always had this creativity with me throughout my life. And I just think it's finally a good opportunity for me at this time to do something about it. You know, I mean, here I am at 59 years old. Yeah. And yeah, I think it's time to create something besides my wonderful children and look upon them as my legacy. I like to maybe leave some things behind, and hopefully people can enjoy and cherish them as well.
Well, you're going to leave something behind for at least 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So how many people can say that? How long did it take to create this thing? I can't imagine.
It took just a statue alone, 10 to 11 months.
Mm.
Okay. Now the school that I joined, which was in the middle of September, which was the Academia of the Arts, ADA, they call it. They're in Florence, Italy. And I went there again just for 1 month in September of 2022, just to understand oil paintings. But they invited me to join their master's program because they liked what I was doing. And it went through an entire representation and study of visual arts, oil painting, watercolor, acrylics, illustrating, even as far as going through the history of art. And we got exposed to sculpturing. Well, I had done a lot of this stuff in the past, but it was just great to finally get a discipline because I went a different direction when I was younger. Mm-hmm. But I decided to just go after this in regards to my talent.
Yeah.
Finally I do something of what gift has been given me to do something and share it with others. So 10 to 11 months, and it was rough.
Yeah. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the process of what you went through? Because, I mean, the final product is amazing. I'm sure you didn't. It took that long to do it. So,
Ronnie, it is a very difficult process. I mean, I had no idea. I read about it, studied it. I've created, little clay formations.
I'm looking at some of these pictures. Yeah.
Yeah. I created little clay formations in the past, but I always, crunched them and then crushed them and then redid another one. But I've never done anything probably as big as my hand. And when I was in that sculpting class, I just thought, man, it'd be so great to do something. Now, this was like in, October, November, and I had taken a break from being over there and came back home and went with Tammy up to Cattle Lake and visited with her a brother who lives there, and his wife Jay. His name or Kay. His name's Jimmy.
Yeah.
And her name is Kay. Last
Yeah.
name's Jordan. And we just kind of mentioned about this. What should we? I want to create a sculpture. What should we do out there in the? What should we do? And we told him about the deed where it says no bullfighting in the side yard. And in good old Jimmy form, he just goes, "Oh, you ought to put a bullfighter out there." We just kind of looked at each other. That's not a bad idea. So I got with the instructor there, and that's when I started.
Perfect fit.
Yeah, it supports the history and so forth.
Yeah.
So it is definitely a process, and I want to say there's about 6 stages to that process. All right. So when I got into it, I literally had to convince them that I could do it, because they just thought, well, you haven't done this before, so
this is the guys in Italy, in Florence.
And so they introduced me to the foundry, which was like a 3rd or 4th generation foundry. Beautiful family there. They would have dinner for me, or lunch for me, supper at 1 o'clock every day. You had to attend as you're working at the foundry. It was interesting. Not a lick of English, or very small. But anyway, so the process is this: you create your clay sculpture. Now, I was wanting to do marble, but that I would still be over there for this size of statue.
Yeah.
Just chisel.
Okay.
And it would just take forever. So you create your clay sculpture. Now, because my clay sculpture is larger and requires more clay, it's going to be very heavy, and it just can't support itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to first weld the armature. And you can see on the pictures there that shows me welding, and I created this armature. It looks like
this metal.
It's like a Terminator.
Yeah.
And chicken wire, so I could lay the clay on top. And that is the first stage, is just getting that put together, that armature and the clay on there. And when I'm doing the clay, that became even more interesting, because I had to even study specific styles of a matador, the machismos and, the little shoulder pad, all that stuff, and really kind of understand what the emblems mean and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just thought to myself, hey, this is the Holly Hedges bullfighter. So every type of emblem that I can possibly create is going to have a holly leaf on there, and vines and so forth. But then on the very back, you'll see the picture soon. You'll see some more of these pictures. It's going to have the logo that I created for Holly Hedges. And below that, you can see our little 2 cats. That's our 2 cats in the yard. Life used to be so hard. Who sang that? What was that? Crosby, Stills, and Nash?
Yeah, maybe so.
I was thinking it was Bread.
I wasn't expecting a reference of those guys today.
So it's interesting. So you've got this clay. Let's say I'm going to do my leg, just my leg, instead of the whole body. I'm just going to show you how difficult the process is. Once you get the clay done, okay, because I started that welding in February and didn't finish it until March. Now, that's because I had class and I was doing this in the afternoon, or in the evenings, and whenever I could. And then from March, April, May, June, I was putting clay on that. And on June 15th is when the foundry came in to the studio, and they start pouring liquid silicone and pushing kind of like a marshmallow thickness of silicone all over it. And that's the first layer they put. And I'm sitting there watching this and just go, man, it's just seeping into everything. So that's the second stage, is putting the silicone on there, because once they put the silicone on there, you then put plaster on it. And the plaster keeps that silicone in place, so it doesn't just sit there and drop and ooze off, and but it dries and it becomes firm. So now, let's take, for example, my leg. I'm just going to do my leg here. Let's say that is a piece of clay sculptured leg. It's a very fine leg, by the way. And I now
mine wouldn't have taken as much. Mine wouldn't have taken as much clay. My skinny leg.
So you have this discount. You have this leg, okay, sculpted leg out of clay.
Okay.
And then you put a layer of silicone And that seeps into the little nooks and crannies, and you can even pick up that little seam there along the pants, and then you put the plaster on top of that. You let it all dry. The next day or 2 days later, you then cut that open. All right, you cut it open, but you cut it in 2 sections, and it's rather precise. Front, back, side, side, whatever it is, depends on how it's held.
Yeah.
Okay, how it's bent or whatever. So you got the front, you got the back, and now you have 2 halves of a mold. One here and one there. All right.
I'm looking at this picture.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and they can see where they're putting all the not plaster, silicone on there, and then at that point, you go into what is called the 3rd stage.
Okay.
Where you have one half and the other half here, front, back, whatever side of it is, of the leg, and you pour a coat of melted wax in there, and you roll it around. You start getting it thicker and thicker, and it starts cooling. You start getting it thicker, and typically they get to where it's almost like a half an inch or more in there. All right, but mind you, that wax is going down into that mold. Okay, all right, but my problem was with all those decals and all the intricacy I did of the leaves and the ribbons and stuff like that. All that clay, when they're pulling that silicone off, just tore off with it, which is common. I didn't know, but I panicked.
You were thinking
I freaked out. The thing just got destroyed.
What are you doing?
Yeah, but I had to spend 2 weeks cleaning the silicone molds out so that when the wax goes in there, it can properly maintain the shape of what my original clay sculpture was. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's quite a process. So now you've got
especially with the pictures.
Yeah. So now you've got this wax that's in there. It's hardened up, and they fire it. They go through the torch and try and even it out. But then they bring both sides back together, cinch it up. All right. Not on they bring it back together by itself.
Mm-hmm.
So think about this. You've got the plaster on the outside, the silicone, and then you've got the wax.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hollow down in there. All right. Well, they cinch it all back together because they're going to fire that up. But what they do is they now pour a very fine cement down in there and let that dry. And once that's dry, they go to the outside and they open up the plaster and the silicone and pull it off. And now you have the wax mold.
So they put the concrete in the middle of everything?
In the middle of the thing to give it stability and support it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's needed for later, because now you have, once you take off the silicone mold,
mm-hmm.
you have this wax impression of exactly what the silicone was, which is exactly what you created with the clay. However, that's copy number 2.
Yeah.
Because you got the silicone copy and now you have the wax copy. So that's copy number 2. So that's when you got to go back in there and doctor it up, go into details, shave some things. You can add extra details. You can burn some wax, add some wax, take away some wax. And once you get all that done, mind you, this is not just a leg I was doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Body.
A six and a half.
But you literally are cutting the entire sculpture in pieces. They can't do it all at once. I think it ended up where I had either 12 or 11 or 14 different pieces or casts, molds.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of crazy because some of them, they hadn't poured the cement in and they were floating in this ice bath, the wax, and it just looked like body parts. so it was,
I could make a mafia joke here. I'm not going.
Oh yeah, I always said, it's kind of a strange event when you go in there and there's hands and there's a wax head floating in there. So
yeah.
Anyway, so from that point, you've got that leg now that has that cement on the inside and the wax is on the outside. You edited that wax, and at that point, you now start going to the 4th step. And that 4th step is what I call it is channeling and creating the final cement cast.
Okay.
Okay. Now keep in mind that wax has all the detail, just like your sculpture did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As long as you've maintained that silicone maintained a good hold, a good replication of your sculpture, and you were able to go back in there and clean that up, and then you can go in and clean the wax up, sharpen it up, and so forth. You're going to get a good impression later on when it comes to bronzing. Now, this is how this happens. So channeling and creating a final cast or cement cast.
Okay.
Before you do anything, while it's all there, the wax, you take, lack of better terms, they're just flexible plastic rods about the size of my finger. Okay. And you come out and you attach them, you heat them up and just attach them to the wax. But you start down at the bottom and you try to avoid any of the decals or any of the intricate areas. You just put it in areas like you'd be in the shin or, down under here, down at the edge of the foot. You start there and then maybe put a couple up here, but you mainly do down here. And those tubes, you carry them all up to the very top. So let's say this is my foot. I got my tubes coming up, leg, and you carry it all the way up and you gather them together there and you create a little, like a bowl that they connect into, like a little cup. So they all connect into this area. So you have the statues come up and it has all these fingers, and you can see the picture of how that statue, just a torso part, had all these fingers, the plastic rods coming up from in certain areas and came up to the top. Well, this is where it gets interesting, because then once that's set, you then pour that same fine cement. You box it up, you frame around it, and you pour that fine cement all around it and encase it.
So it's like a funnel that goes down. Is that right?
Yeah, but that funnel's going up here, but you're filling everything else up.
Yeah.
None of the wax is going to be in there just solid.
Okay.
But you're filling the rest around everywhere else, around the outside and through everywhere. It's getting filled with cement, that very, very fine cement. They said loto or something like that. I can't remember the exact term. Anyway, so it comes all the way up and it gets up to the top of where that cup is, all right, or that funnel, which each one of those wax tubes are connected to. And then once that cement is settled and dried, they then shove that into a huge oven that you could fit, probably my Ford F-150 in.
Yeah.
It's very nice. And I wouldn't want to be in there with it. But it's in there for probably about 2 days, 2 to 3 days. And this is why the process is called the lost wax process, because all that wax, including those little bars and rods, disappears, burns out. And guess what you have left? Think about it. You've got that little funnel at the top, and all those little rods came down here, came down there, came down there.
So it's all that.
So you now have the empty space because the wax is gone.
Yeah.
And you've got the impression that your wax left in the cement on the outside. And now that wax tubes leave channels so that when you pour the bronze, it funnels down to the very bottom of it and slowly comes up, because you don't want to start from the top. You want to start from the bottom to alleviate any air pockets and stuff like that. And it just slowly comes up and reaches the top, and that's when they stop pouring. It's very fascinating.
Man, yeah, that's
fascinating.
So
So the I guess you might say the fifth stage is the bronzing, where they take
this silver thing here.
That's the oven.
That's it.
That's
the
easy bake oven.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty big one though.
Yes.
So at that point, what they do when it comes to the bronzing, they have all the casts. Okay. I mean, there's large, small, depending on what's inside of the head, the foot, the torso, and all of them lined up along where the crucible that is melting. It's a mix of 88% copper and 12% tin. And they're melting this stuff, and that thing just roars. Just
I don't
know what they're feeding it or what, but it just roars. And when it gets to the point, everybody gets on their retardant suits or whatever it is, protect, and their gloves, and they start going around and they dip into the crucible and pour that melted copper, or bronze, I should say, 88% copper and 12% tin, so it's bronze, and they pour it into each one of those casts up to that point where that funnel is. That leads to the channels that go down and fill up the void of where the wax was before. And once that's done, I think you got to wait at least a day, because when there's a picture here that shows that I cracked open the torso, and I had a jackhammer. I first had a jackhammer to cut off the edges and so forth and get down to where I could start hammering it. And it's pretty simple because it's a very fine cement, so it comes out, but it holds its form. And as I'm breaking it down, you can see where all those tubes, the bronze leads down to certain areas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's quite ugly. It has no, you're just like, what am I going to do with this? Well, that becomes the sixth stage, which is
the pictures really, I mean, are just,
which is the finishing.
Yeah.
And the finishing is you got to grind off every one of those little channels, those things that came down to feed the bronze into those regions. And then you got to grind it down, polish it down, and depending on where it's at, you've got to chase it, meaning you got to go in there and do texture in areas with a awl and a hammer. And that was a complete nightmare for me. It took me 2.5 weeks to go through and do all this. But think about it.
So this is like the final stage.
Yeah. But think about it. I had all these different pieces. Now what do we do with them? Oh, we got to bring them back together. So we have to TIG weld them back together. And that was a process in itself. And many folks, when we were looking at the video on Facebook that I did a while back, it was just surprising of how much it takes to get a statue that big put back together. Because then once it's all back together, you got to go into those welded areas and grind them out, buff them out, and then depending on if you need to add a little bit more chasing, you go back in there and do that. Now the statue looked like a complete gold statue when it was done, because the quality of copper and tin they put in there. I didn't want a gold-looking statue out there. What I wanted was something that had more of an aged antique look. And so I asked that, this was in September of this past year, I asked them to use what they call apply a patina of a coffee color mixed with a little bit of antiquing green. And I thought, that'd be cool. Kind of make it look already like it's a little aged.
Yeah.
So that's what they did. And that was at the end of September. They crated it up, and it had been there all the way until last week, which is, how many months is it? October, November, December, January.
Yeah, and here we are mid-February.
Yeah. And, aside from I would say the government, the integrity people that wanting to, oh, come on, we just need a little more. You got to pay for this. We can't have it here all this time.
Trying to do their thing.
Yeah. But I love everybody there. And the beautiful foundry, Giacomo, who you've seen some pictures there. He's the son of the father, third, fourth generation. It's just unbelievable. Walked me through this whole thing. He is a master craftsman. His wife, Laura, is just incredible. She worked very close with me. And Sarah, who was in charge of getting the shipping and everything together. These guys ship everything around the world. They're not doing it for guys like me, sculptures. They're doing it for countries. They're doing it for these high-end sculptures. In fact, Bernini was in there when I was in there. Yeah. And his statue couldn't even fit in this room. And it was a commissioned work that he was doing for a country. People from China, Germany. It was so humbling to be there and do that.
I'll never look at these things the same now. Whenever I come out to Holly Hedges and look at it, I'm going to be thinking about these pictures and the steps that went into it.
And I got to say, if it would not have happened if it wasn't for my wife supporting me to do this.
Yeah.
She came there and visited me. We took trips and stuff like that and hiked around, went up to Cinque Terre and all sorts of places, had a good old time. Pisa. It's a beautiful place to be when it comes to focusing on art. And you just need to get to another place. And my kids came over too, and that was neat. But that's the story of this whole Natchez Matador. So, and again, it's going to be on March 2nd at 1 o'clock.
The unveiling.
At Holly Hedges. And the address is 214 Washington Street.
Okay.
And it's the white federal home built back in 1796. And the deed says that no bullfighting in the side yard. And we'd love to have you come there and witness the unveiling. We're going to celebrate and have a good time.
And then after that, the Save the Hall ball.
Save the Hall ball.
It'll be a great day to
And if you'd like,
make a day out of
Ronnie, if you would like a custom statue, bronze 24 by 30 inch statue, custom made, commissioned, whatever it is you want.
That's right.
You know, jump on into the auctioning, or you can too.
I don't know if I'll be able to outbid some of these guys that'll be there, but I'll start the bidding.
But I think that's going to be a very unique opportunity.
Yeah, it definitely will, and the money goes to a great cause, and what a cool way to. I mean, what a cool thing! It's very personal.
Yeah,
so,
it is.
Yeah.
But I sure appreciate
that's cool,
letting
man.
me come in here and talk about this. I hope I didn't bore you.
No, I think it's really fascinating to see the process. I mean, we've talked quite a few times during the process, but to hear it and to see the pictures while you're explaining it really kind of brings it to life.
To finally see it again.
How did you feel when you opened the crate?
I cried.
Did you?
I screamed. Oh my gosh! Yeah. Whoa! You know, I got it on video that I posted online too. But it's humbling to think. You know, myself, I have this problem that I'll create something, and I'll look back at it, and sometimes I don't even remember the process. It's just like I go into the zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it,
Anyway.
man. It's but this is gonna be. I'm looking forward to the unveiling. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I mean, 6'5" is.
That's with the pedestal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's gonna be cool seeing it out in the yard.
It's gonna be, and I have to wax it twice a year for the next 4 years, because this is the traditional process. This is what they are telling me, and this is a true bronzing foundry that has done it for years. And so I got to do it on a hot summer day or a hot day, wax it. Now I can buff it out, make some areas a little shinier and so forth. So it's going to be neat.
Well, at least you have a lot of opportunities for a hot day here. Is there anything?
Got one today. It's like 75 out there.
Anything else you want to add in?
No, I just appreciate this opportunity again.
Yeah.
And look forward to hopefully having you all come out and see the statue get unveiled.
Yeah, well, we'll get out of here because I know you've got to run. I think you're getting out of town today, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
So busy man, but I appreciate you coming in and taking a few minutes with us to come share this story, because I do think a lot of people are going to find it interesting. And,
Good.
And that's what we're trying to do here, share cool stories and champion stories.
You guys do a good job.
Well, thank you, man. And
appreciate it.
Appreciate all the viewers. I mean, I know you guys found it, when you see the pictures and hear the stories, I know you found it as interesting as I did.
Crazy.
Yeah. Want to say thank you to all of our awesome partners out there. Without you guys, we can't do what we do. God bless everybody out there. And as always, have a champion day. Hey guys, Ronnie and Shannon here with Miss Lou Champion Spotlight.
And we're here at our amazing partners, Gregg Veterinary Hospital.
Gregg Veterinary Hospital has been providing comprehensive, reliable, cutting-edge veterinary services to pets in the Miss Lou since 2002.
They welcome pets of all shapes and sizes who are in need of emergency treatment or who require routine medical, surgical, and dental care.
Dr. Gregg and his team offer a long list of services, including in-house laboratory diagnostics, digital x-ray, soft tissue, orthopedic surgery, dental care, extractions, laser surgery, laser therapy, preventative health, and wellness plans.
And if you need grooming and boarding services, they do that too.
So call Gregg Vet today.
My name is Yvonne Ivory. I'm the lab director here at Trinity Medical. I have 40 years of medical laboratory experience.
Hello, my name is Mary Cubic. I am Trinity Medical Outpatient Specialist, and I've been doing this for over 40 years.
Our lab offers numerous services. We have an exceptional outpatient department. We provide phlebotomies and venipunctures for tests requested by physicians. Trinity Lab has the newest, most innovative equipment for specimen processing, yielding quick turnaround times for results. Doctors are able to diagnose and treat patients in a timely manner for faster healing. Our newest addition is our in-house microbiology department.
Hi, I'm Fayla Giddon, and I am the lead microbiology tech here at Trinity Medical. I have over 24 years of experience, and this is our brand new microbiology department. So if the doctors suspect infection, that's where we bring the cultures back here. We set them up on different types of media, depending on what type of culture it is. So if we have some growth, it'll be something like this. So we do some offline tests where we determine if it's gram positive, gram negative, and then we're able to set it up on our machines, and it's able to tell us the organism. It gives us an ID, and it also gives us a sensitivity, which shows the doctor what drug will treat the patient and kill the organism.
Here at Trinity, we are committed to providing excellent patient care and services to promote the healing of our patients and our community.
Hi, it's Shannon with Miss Lou Champion Spotlight. If you like what we're doing, be sure to follow, like, share, and even comment on all our content. Also, visit MissLouChampions.com to sign up for our newsletter and to receive other information, as well as the opportunity to receive some awesome prizes. Thank you, Miss Lou, for your continued support, and as always, have a champion day.